Varsity is growing. It's dynamic. FIFA wasn't a blip. This is a sign of great things to come for KC. And you know what? We're not sitting back saying we're just a nice place to be from. We're a great place to be.
Now we're on radio. We can say Kansas City's kicking ass. I'll say it. So, for the last week and a half or so, people were wrapping their heads around Washington Square Park. Yeah. And then yesterday, slight adjustment. So what? And we saw from the plans, but maybe explain why this is the better site and why this made more sense.
You know, I think that what I've heard from the Royals, and I'll let them speak to a lot of that too, is that, and Hallmark, frankly, is that you have more area to work with. You have a closer connection to parking spots, to all of the entertainment opportunities. I mean, this is something that really fits well within the district development itself. You already have largely the infrastructure to support a stadium, even if it doesn't seem that way, and you have tired, about 60, 70-year-old office product. And so this is why, kind of going through all that, you see that discussion of the Crown Center Stadium, and that's why I think the public eventually will be on board.
Good morning, Kansas City. This is New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. Stephen St. John in studio. Jake Gutierrez on the other side of the glass. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Big day. Big day. Big week. Yesterday was a big day for sports in Kansas City. Today's a big day. It'll be a big weekend. Look, I'll mention it now, and maybe I'll mention it one more time between now and 10 o'clock. But too much positivity to focus on this for too long. But the Royals lost yesterday. All right? Too many other things happening to get caught up on with that negativity, but not good. Royals lose to the Orioles 8-6. But again, grand scheme of things, it was more concerning to see that Michael Garcia left the game early with right elbow soreness. And you're thinking, oh no, this bad season could get even worse. Garcia will undergo further evaluation in the next few days, although, according to Andy Rogers' article at MLB.com, he was already looking forward to playing Friday after today's off day. He felt something during his second at bat yesterday when he popped up to second base. He stayed in the game, but was out by the sixth inning. Jake Gutierrez said they just wanted to get it checked out, see how he feels. And so hopefully we will see him back in the lineup on Friday. It is notable that after the 23 season, Garcia had a procedure done to remove bone spurs from his right elbow, but he hasn't missed any time since, and hopefully won't, despite leaving the game early with right elbow soreness. But bookmark that, and we'll get back to you on Friday. Hopefully when we see him in the lineup, and this was just precautionary. We'll have a lot of draft talk for you. We've got a good show planned for you. Yesterday at the big press conference, I had a chance to talk with Hall of Famer George Brett, Mayor Quentin Lucas, Bob Kendrick, president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. He was the MC. Boy, I'll be the MC of a charity event later on today. I enjoy my work as an MC. A few people think I'm good at it, but let me tell you something. That's the best MC you can get is Bob Kendrick. He just his energy and his positivity and his ability just to make people listen, with his stories and just everything. He has that. There's some people that have that it factor,
Charismatic.
Yeah.
Charisma.
I always enjoy any event that he's a part of, and I also enjoy getting a chance to speak with him like I did yesterday. So we'll hear from Bob Kendrick as well. I interviewed J.J. Piccolo. You heard that on Sports Radio 810 yesterday. And so that was a terrific experience. And I'm really, really glad that I was there at the press conference at the American Restaurant. Shout out to Todd Lebo and Bethany Bowman, who were also there with me. We made the walk and had a nice lunch over at Crown Center. Guess where we ate?
I'm not even sure what. It's been so long.
Empanada Madness.
Oh, how was it?
I had the El Cubanito, which was very good, delicious. If you enjoy a good Cuban sandwich, I recommend it. Yeah, it was very good.
I heard Todd refused to take the tab.
Oh, really? Who told you that?
Twitter. Twitter told me that he made you pay for the bill for your own instead of picking up the tab.
What are you talking about? Who tweeted that out?
Someone, I guess, I don't know. Someone tweeted out like, Todd, you made Steven pay for his own lunch?
I paid for everybody's.
Okay, well there.
I paid for my own.
Yeah.
No,
I guess he made you pick up the tab.
He must have talked about that on the air.
He must have mentioned it.
The way I looked at it was this. I covered a city council meeting. I covered the Parks and Recs board meeting. I covered, yesterday's press conference. And Bethany was there for all of them and did a really nice job.
So you want to treat her?
So I wanted to buy her lunch. I wasn't, jumping through hoops to buy Todd's lunch.
Right.
And I did give him a moment to pay. And he made no move.
Whiffed at it, huh?
He made no move, so I made the move. Yeah. He drove me down there.
Yeah.
And I like.
Fair.
Let me tell you something. No, that's worth a lot to me. That's worth lunch. I like to be driven around. I don't like to deal with just, it gave me a chance to think about, what questions I was going to ask and who I was going to try to talk to. So I got no problem with that, man. They deserved it. I just was curious how that
he must have mentioned
information
that you took care of the tab.
Arrived. Yeah.
Someone's like, you made Steven pay for lunch?
Yeah, Steven paid for lunch. Steven didn't pay for his own lunch, but hey, Uncle Steven's happy to do that. You help me, I help you. As I said, Todd, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, I'll scratch my back, Todd. And he did. It was very good. And so we had a good day. And for me personally, that was very exciting to be there. All the dignitaries, former Mayor Kay Barnes was there, former Mayor Sly James, obviously the current mayor, the governor, Governor Kehoe, with a nice suit paired with a very nice pair of cowboy boots. All right, I like the combo. And then, John Sherman, the Royals brass, like I said, George Brett, Bob Kendrick. It was a who's who in Kansas City, and I appreciated being there. And I appreciated being given the opportunity to cover it. And look, those are renderings. The first images that we saw, those are not going to be the final images, but that just kind of gives you an idea of what the plans are with this Crown Center location. And for the most part, the reactions that I saw were positive. And look, here's the deal. There's some people that it doesn't matter if they build a rocket ship that could take us to the moon there.
Well,
they're not going to
first.
They won't like it. Okay? They won't like it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Yep.
It doesn't matter now that 2/3 of this is going to be privately funded, and the Royals and others are going to be, chipping the money to the tune of $2 billion. None of these things matter. Doesn't matter that Don Hall Jr. and Hallmark's on board. It doesn't matter that this is, in the long run, going to be better for Kansas City. None of that matters. Some people just want to be negative, and that's fine. They're digging their heels. There's still a Facebook page that they're trying to save the K. And I just want to collect all of them together and say, you are wasting your time.
So I should close that page down.
What are you doing? This is not an option. I get it. You romanticize what Kauffman Stadium has been. So do I. I'm gonna guess I've spent more time at that Truman Sports Complex than the vast majority of the people on that Facebook page. And I get it.
Yep.
But
I'm in that camp.
It's
I mean,
time to move on.
It's
okay.
Moot point now.
It's not an option.
Right.
It's not available to you. There's no chance that they're staying there. So, anyway, I thought it was a terrific day. I'm excited. I was excited about what we saw. Let's play a couple of clips. Here is Hall of Famer George Brett, who people said I was creeping and lurking behind him.
I had people come up to me and say, hey, it's funny seeing Steven on all the news channels right next to George.
Well, I had to position my first day. George, we were talking before then, before the TV cameras got there. And then I left and came back, and then I was going to talk to him. And I didn't know I was in the camera shot because they're different cameras, no matter where you go. But it did look I was lurking. I looked like a creep. I get it. I understand.
I heard it looked great.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, I was the first one.
I was
very creepy, walking up here, and I'm standing there. I get it. But I got to do what I got to do to get the sound for the show. That's it. Because I wanted to
deliver.
So as soon as he was done, then you could see me going, And so then we talked. So here's some words from Hall of Famer George Brett yesterday at the press conference.
How important was it for you, for the Royals to stay in Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, I live in Kansas. I've lived in Kansas for the last 40 years of my life. And I'm glad they're staying. We've had a lot of sports teams leave. And, when the Chiefs left, somebody said, you know how many teams have left the state of Missouri? I think it was 7 or 8, going back to the Rams and, Sporting and the St. Louis Browns, and you go all the way through. I'm glad it stayed in Missouri, and I really don't think the Royals ever intended to leave. And once the Chiefs left, I don't think the state of Missouri wanted the Royals to leave. So I'm glad they worked out a deal. I wish it was done sooner. Maybe we would be a year ahead of time right now, but I'm glad they're here. It's close to my house. I love it. I think it's going to be great for the development of this part of town.
What was your reaction to what you saw on the screen that they showed today?
You know what? One of these days I'm going to get out and walk. I want to walk it, but it's going to be special. I don't know. Have you been to Atlanta? Atlanta's special, and that's on 35 acres. We got 85 acres. I know everybody's really concerned about the parking. I think there'll be ample parking, and I'm sure that's something that John Sherman and that's something that Quentin Lucas and everybody's got to figure out parking. We got the train system coming down now. It's going to be good. I think it's going to be great for the city.
I know we've got a couple of years until it happens, but is there a part of you that'll be a little sad to leave Truman Sports Complex?
Yes. That's where all my memories are. I got a brick outside that stadium. When you walk in, when you walk in the main gates, people buy a brick and you can write on it whatever you want. And I said, thanks for a lifetime of memories. I will not have a lifetime of memories at this stadium. The one thing that I'm going to try to do, Stephen, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to try to get one of the urinals out of the Royals locker room and one of the urinals out of the visiting locker room to put in my house. That's what I want.
Have you already reached out to anyone about
No, I haven't. I got 5 years to do that, 4 or 5 years.
I'm guessing they're going to tell you yes.
How about when Yankee Stadium closed, I tried to get one out of both locker. I have 5 urinals in my house, and I would gladly replace them for a Yankee, how about a home urinal from Yankee Stadium? Just think where Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and all those guys went to the bathroom. Wouldn't that be great to have in your house? Well, I'm going to try to get one from the Royals visiting and home and transport it to my house. That's the only thing I want.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing else.
But overall, a great day for Kansas City.
It's fantastic. Yeah, I really do. I really think it's a good day. Long time coming. Had some setbacks over the last 2 years, with teammate of mine. But I'm glad it's finally settled, and I'm glad we're staying in the state of Missouri.
And maybe after last night, the team we're watching now might turn things
Well,
around.
yeah, I hope so. It's just, I played on teams like that. I remember one year, I think we started off 1-17 or something, and everybody just gets to try too hard rather than relaxing. We got a win under our belt last night on a obscure play. And hopefully everybody will relax a little bit, and we'll see how these guys can really play. They're a lot better than what they're playing. They know that. You know that. I know that. John Sherman knows that. JJ knows that. Matt Gutierrez knows that. But the guys, when they get on the field and you get to try too hard, it's hard. The game becomes hard. And you got to slow the game down. You got to breathe, and you got to do what you can do. Be the best player you can be. And I think right now, what we've seen the last 8 or 9 days, people aren't being the best players they can be. They're trying to do things they're not capable of. Once they get that through their freaking head, they'll be a better ball club.
Thank you, George.
You got it.
Good stuff there from George. I didn't know if that's what your guess would have been when I asked George about Kauffman Stadium, the fact that he is going to ask, and you got to give it to him.
Oh, yeah.
You better give it to him.
Yeah.
If you want to
He
urinal
deserves it.
from the
Both of them. If you want
home
all of them.
clubhouse and the visitors clubhouse, just, okay, George, when do you want to deliver? That's your answer.
That's right.
That's your answer. All right? And he could install them in his house. You let him have what he wants.
I don't know what his wife thinks about it, but
It kind of sounds like, I feel like this has been discussed.
okay. I mean, urinals
Yeah,
are
this
kind of
is-
hard for women to use.
This is oh boy, this is a Nate Bukaty moment. I have been in George's basement, and so
You peed in his
it-
urinals?
yes, I have.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah, I know.
If only I could tell my grandfather.
Trust me, he knows.
Yeah, mijo.
He knows.
Oh, mijo. And so
Yeah.
they did not win again yesterday, but hopefully the Royals will do what George says and figure things out this weekend. All right, I also talked to Mayor Quentin Lucas after the press conference, which he was a part of. And so here's my quick conversation with the mayor.
A sports fan in me is very excited. A mayor just wants to get all the deals signed, get this done, move on to the next thing. But let me tell you about this, and I'm going to make it appropriate because we're on TV. I won't say a swear word. But Kansas City's kicking butt the last few years. If you think about a women's soccer stadium on a riverfront, which is $1 billion of development, a $3 billion development here in the core of our city, new sports facilities, right? That's just Kansas City, Missouri, not to mention the entire region. Our city is growing. It's dynamic. FIFA wasn't a blip. This is a sign of great things to come for KC. And you know what? We're not sitting back saying we're just a nice place to be from. We're a great place to be.
Now we're on radio. We can say Kansas City's kicking ass. I'll say it. So, for the last week and a half or so, people were wrapping their heads around Washington Square Park.
Yeah.
And then yesterday, slight adjustment. So, what and we saw from the plans, but maybe explain why this is the better site and why this made more sense.
You know, I think that what I've heard from the Royals, and I'll let them speak to a lot of that too, is that, and Hallmark, frankly, is that you have more area to work with. You have a closer connection to parking spots, to all of the entertainment opportunities. I mean, this is something that really fits well within the district development itself. You already have largely the infrastructure to support a stadium, even if it doesn't seem that way. And you have tired, about 60, 70-year-old office product. And so this is why, kind of going through all that, you see that discussion of the Crown Center Stadium, and that's why I think the public eventually will be on board.
Thought it was interesting. Mark Donovan was here with the Chiefs to watch this.
Yep.
And we've talked about what happened with the Chiefs, but now that just at least a sort of a finish line, there's got to be tremendous satisfaction to see this play out now in front of you today after such a long wait.
Well, you know, look, I always believed the Royals were going to stay in downtown Kansas City. You could hear it in kind of what John Sherman was saying today, and we saw it in all the negotiations along the way. I'm proud of where we are today. I didn't get to talk to him. I was on stage, but it was good to see Mark Donovan. We're getting back to how this is one region and how we all work together. I'll be honest, if we're pitching for a Super Bowl, you're going to need Kansas City, Missouri to be a part of it. We've got a lot of the hotels, the airport, the infrastructure, places like Crown Center, a convention center where you can host an NFL Super Bowl experience. And so I think what we are seeing today is that next step of how do we work together? How do we build out the future for this region? How do we build the sort of thing that is attractive to people anywhere? And here's my jam. Kansas City should be second to none. I don't want to be inferior to Dallas or Detroit or any other spot. We're going to build the best facilities in America. I think that's what a lot of this celebration is about today. And for those who hate stadium incentives and think this is a huge waste of money, this is about business. And at the core, you can be a non-sports fan, you cannot care a lick. This many people coming to the core of our city, this many people seeing what's going on in Kansas City, this many construction jobs, particularly for our union workers. And let me be fair to the people who work at the stadium each day, too. Right, we're here close to the east side, we're close to the northeast, we're close to eastern KCK, right? This is going to be great for everybody who's nearby to have good job opportunities long term.
And this just feels like it's a great day for Kansas City, Missouri, right?
It's a huge day for Kansas City, Missouri. I think this is as big a day, and I wasn't around for it, but it's when J.C. Hall, Donald Hall, and others decided to invest in Crown Center. Think about what could have been different, right? We've had 50 years of activity here at Crown Center, people coming down, people spending money. And this gives us a chance again for people to say, KCMO is where it's at. And this is where we're different than other regions. And I respect them, I love them all. But you go to St. Louis, a whole bunch of activity is moving out. The stadiums are the last thing really in the core. If you come here, people are still coming downtown for shows, for shopping, for restaurants. This just guarantees that people will have more reasons to come downtown. And frankly, that helps every edge of the region. It's not just one part that's growing, it's the core, it's all of us. That's going to be huge for the city long term.
Finally, most important question. Do you want me on this city council beat? Because I'm starting to feel comfortable in these surroundings.
Well, dude, let me tell you this. I was listening to you. You gave some critical, objective coverage on liquor laws and everything else. I mean, I think you give us a fair shot. What I will say long term, though, is sports is business in Kansas City. And I think if you haven't noticed the last 5 years how much sports is business, look at FIFA, look at the hotel rooms that are full, look at this whole stadium discussion where when we get past it and who's hurt and all of that, and I love Arrowhead and I'll miss it. We are talking about with this new stadium in KCMO, the stadium out west, $7 billion of economic activity in Kansas City, Missouri. There is not $7 billion of other economic activity really going on in so distinct an industry. This is a huge industry. Kansas City needs to win at it. I'm tired of seeing other cities like Indianapolis and others be able to thrive with it. Kansas City's on the map. I look forward to more, and today is just a huge part of it all.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor Quentin Lucas. So there's George Brett, Quentin Lucas. We'll hear some from Bob Kendrick a little bit later. Up next, we're going to talk to former Chiefs offensive lineman Joe Valerio about the draft. Then ESPN's Buster Olney. Adam Kaplan will be with us to talk NFL draft. Gary Dieter and Anthony Sherman in the 8 o'clock hour. And then Chiefs beat reporter Jesse Newell in the 9 o'clock hour. Draft, and more draft. We got it for you right here all morning long on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Let's say hello to former Chiefs offensive lineman Joe Valerio. Joe, good morning. How are you?
Steven, draft week. Here we go. So excited. 2 picks in the first round. Hasn't happened in a while. One this high in the first round. Man, super exciting times for the Chiefs.
It's been such a long wait because they didn't make the playoffs, and we had to start our draft talk too early. And then it ramped up when they acquired that second first-round pick, like you alluded to. But now it's just, man, get me there. I'm very excited. Look, I love talking drafted football, but let's go. And so let's just start there. It seems like there's a lot of momentum now building for Ruben Bain Jr., although there's still, the possibility of wide receiver. Caleb Downs, I think, depending on how the draft falls, is a possibility. And then you still got some people out there pushing the idea of an offensive tackle at number 9. Where are you landing right now, day of, after everything you've heard, after all the discussion, morning of the draft, where are you leaning for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff Adotin and I on our pod, we had Eric Edholm from the NFL.com, and he's a big draft guru, and we had him on, and look, things change, right? First thing everybody's thinking beginning of the offseason, running back, right? When we knew Pacheco wasn't coming back, it's like, then we go get Kenneth Walker. Wow, that threw a wrench into everything, right? Because now we're thinking, all right, where can we really focus now that we got that secured? For me personally, Steven, I would love, look, I'm an offensive lineman. That's what I do. But I would love for them to grab an offensive lineman early, because I think there's going to be I know I was talking with Jake offline. I know that there's maybe to try to grab that at the 29. You could get a steal. I just really want them to secure that lineup and protect Patrick. And I keep going back to this in my mind. Every single time the Chiefs have faltered in the playoffs, a couple of Super Bowls, it's always come down to the offensive line play, right? And Patrick running around needing protection. So I'm thinking, I don't know if they're going to get I still have trouble pronouncing it. Maui Noah. So I don't know if he's going to be available, but I would love to see them grab Spencer Fano. I think he's athletic, he's big, he's tall, he can fit Andy's scheme. I would love to see them shore it up and go with that at number 9. And I know they got a lot of needs, right? I know cornerback, wide receiver. If Ruben Bain drops, you get another edge rusher to complement what George Karlaftis is doing. I mean, there's so many opportunities, but it's predict, what teams are thinking. They're not, they're keeping things close to the vest. I mean, we obviously all know where Fernando Mendoza is going. I mean, that's an obvious one. And we know that, like, Arvell Reese, and I was thinking hopefully Jeremiah Love would have slipped if they if they didn't get Kenneth Walker Jr., but he obviously would never have made it to 9. They would have had to trade up for him. I mean, but Ruben Bain, he's a guy that, he's a top 5 player in the draft. When you look at total athletes, he may be top 3, because when you take Mendoza out of the mix, right, as the, I don't know if he's one of the best players in the draft. Ruben Bain is a great option. So I think it's so hard to predict, but I would like to see them get an offensive lineman. That was the longest answer to a shortest question.
So, well, clearly you're biased because you're an offensive lineman, but do you want an offensive lineman early just simply to shore up right tackle, or is any part of it that you have any concern about Josh Simmons?
I think it's just to shore it up and have it, and I think Josh Simmons had a good year. I saw some stats on him where he had some really good stats as far as pressures and mental mistakes and missed assignments and penalties and all that stuff. I think they're going to be fine there. I think a Spencer Fano would be a great complement. They'd be a great complement to each other, and I think he would help just bring something like a Tristan Wirfs did to Tampa Bay, right? Like you go early, you go real hard on an offensive lineman, and then you get somebody that can be there for the rest of their career, right? You can really shore it up, because again, I am going to put my offensive line bias aside and say that every time I've seen the Chiefs struggle, it's always been on the line, right? It's not being able to win the line of scrimmage. I think You got an unbelievable coach in Steve Spagnuolo who can do magic with pieces and move things around. That's why I think if they give him an opportunity to get a corner at 29, if somebody, whether it's somebody who slips, that's available, names, like Avion Terrell out of Clemson, like if he slips down and they can grab him at 29, or they can pull somebody up that might be looked at as a second-round pick that fits his scheme, I think they can do more with that. I don't know. I'm not being biased. I really am. I really think they need to protect Patrick. I think right tackle is a huge spot for them. It's almost more important than the left tackle spot because Patrick likes to have that part of his vision clear. He doesn't really worry about blindside stuff because he's really good at eluding those. So I think shoring that up would be critical for them at this juncture, given all the other pieces that they have.
I thought an interesting mock draft was from Matt Miller from ESPN because they paired it with Jeremy Fowler's intel with each pick, and Jeremy Fowler comes on the show here with us every Wednesday. And so at number 9, with Ruben Bain, Caleb Downs, Spencer Fano, Mansour Delane, all available, he went with Ruben Bain Jr., and I think it is significant that Miller said that based on multiple conversations with scouts, Bain's sub-31-inch arm length is not a concern, despite Spags historically preferring players with long arms because his speed and power off the edge are seen as difference-making traits. And Jeremy Fowler said his intel was that Bain is firmly on Kansas City's radar. They'd like to address corner, wide receiver, and possibly offensive line at some point early in the draft, depending on how things fall. But he also says it would be interesting to see if the Chiefs, who have worked the phones since the Saints, would take Bain and try to maneuver. And so there's a possibility if they think they can't get the guy they want, could they move up? But then there's also some talk, and look, this is why it's so exciting, because anything can happen, that they're one of the teams that might be willing to move back depending on how the draft falls. I just reposted something from Albert Breer, and he has the Chiefs as one of the teams that's been taking calls about the possibility of moving down. And that's just normal. Brett Veach needs to have all his options available depending on how this board falls. But when you, again, hear Bain, because his name gets mentioned a lot, and the arms, do you agree with that assessment that his arm length shouldn't be a concern because of his other tremendous skills? Or going into the first round, is that still something that's a red flag for you?
For a first rounder, I think it is. The tackles these days are so tall and so long and so athletic that when you've got offensive linemen that can get their hands out on people real quickly and get on their shoulder and keep them from getting that arm into your chest, because that's where Derek Thomas was a master at that. You see so many players that they get that hand in your chest, and then they have you right when you're rushing off the edge. I mean, the days of kind of dipping your shoulder and coming around the edge as fast as you possibly can, as big and athletic as these tackles are, you just don't see that as much anymore, right? You just don't see those blind side, kind of strip sack type things happening anymore, right? A lot of it's pressure. A lot of it's collapsing the pocket, mush rush, right? With these quarterbacks, the elite ones at least, they're not statues back there anymore, right? They're moving around, and you got to have some sense of pocket push to make that happen. Now, he does couple that with an incredible amount of athletic ability that he can maneuver around the rush pocket, so to speak, from a defensive perspective. And so you're right. It does coupled up with, for a first round pick, top 10. I mean, I don't know. I think I'd have to go with. I'm not a big measurables guy. I think football's played on the field. It's not played at the combine, and it's not played in all that stuff. It's played on the field. And there have been plenty of players with subpar measurables that have had Hall of Fame careers, but I just think top 10, I think that's a little bit of a risk these days if you don't have the exact measurables to fit into a scheme. You don't want to set them up for failure. So I that's why I'm thinking they got to just solidify the line, go with something a little bit safe at this point, and build around that if Spencer Fano is available.
Okay, so you say go with something safe. Field Yates from ESPN just posted his final mock draft, and he has good intel. And I like to read mock drafts from not just guys that look from a scouting eye, but that have good intel because of the relationships of the organization. So I pay more attention to that. This would be really interesting. According to his mock draft, with Mawanoa on the board, Mansour Delane on the board, Spencer Fano on the board, Ruben Bain on the board, he has them going Caleb Downs, the safety from Ohio State, and says that he's just too good of a football player and too impactful to pass up. And again, we talked about this. This is a team that invested in Eric Berry and then Tyrann Mathieu and then Justin Reed, and then they didn't have that big name safety in the back of that defense last year, and it kind of went south on them. So maybe they think, we need to get back to having a guy that can be the centerpiece of our secondary. But some people say, hey, this is just the best football player in the draft, and that seems like what you said, safe with number 9 and still getting a guy that can make a really good impact. Would you be turned off by that if there was a pass rusher there and there was an offensive lineman there that you liked, yet they went with a guy that could be a Pro Bowl safety right away?
I mean, that's a really, really good point, Stephen, and I don't think I would. I would be happy with that because I am a big believer that the draft is an amorphous, ambiguous, it's an amoeba as it changes from pick to pick to pick. And obviously it gets a little crazier the lower down you get because, you're still trying to feel out who took who where and who's left on the board. I mean, obviously everybody has a really good sense. If you wanted to rank the top, say, 15 to 20 players, I'm not talking about who's going to go first and, the fact that Fernando Mendoza is going to go first. Is he actually one of the best players in the top 20 as far as who's going to make an impact? I know he's the best quarterback, and that's the marquee position. But I just have a feeling that if somebody like a Caleb Downs is available at 9, I mean, I wouldn't hate on that pick. I really wouldn't, considering that he is an elite athlete, and probably if he slips to 9, there is no doubt he would be the best player on the board at that particular moment, and you can't fault somebody for going with that. And I like your analysis on the safeties that the Chiefs have done over the years. I go back to, Kevin Ross, and Deron Sherry and that defensive backfield. I know some of them were like Kevin was a corner, but that was a hard-nosed, run-stopping defensive secondary. You had Albert Lewis, back there kind of as your cover corner, but man, you had guys like Kevin Ross and Deron Sherry. They were really like mini linebackers back there, and I think that's what a Caleb Downs would be if they brought him in. Plus, he's got incredible football IQ, and we all know that Spags loves smart football players.
Look, the secondary of my youth, like you said, Deron Sherry, Lloyd Burris, Albert Lewis, and Kevin Ross, and then later in his career, Kevin Ross did move to safety. Rock was the man.
Rock.
That's right. That's exactly right. Okay.
Hey, Steve, real quick though, excited about Bill Moss, right? Pittsburgh, Philly guy, right? My locker mate, Pitt, University of Pittsburgh.
That's right.
Out one of the picks. Super excited about Billy Bob making that call this week.
He's going to love that, and he's a regular guest on our show every Monday. So we'll probably check in with him on Monday and see how everything went with his experience. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so we talked about things you would like, and you wouldn't hate on a Caleb Downs pick. What would you hate on? What would disappoint you with the number 9 pick?
I mean, I would Captain Obvious statement, running back, right? I mean, come on. You just picked up the Super Bowl MVP. Let's put that aside. That's going to happen. But if something crazy happened and they did, I'd be like, what's going on? So I'll put that little funny comment out there. I mean, interior D lineman maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'd hate on a wide receiver, considering they've got to figure something out with this core group that they have, and especially knowing now that Rashee Rice is kind of in the mix here, and he's kind of out of all that stuff that was going on. So I don't think I'd be too excited unless somebody popped up at number 9. I could see them maybe doing if I don't know. I can't really actually see any of the wide receivers in this draft moving up to 9. I don't think it's a heavy wide receiver draft. So I'd be disappointed if they did a wide receiver because I think they'd be foregoing the true top 9 pick if they did that.
Joe Valerio, tell people about the podcast.
Yeah, podcast Believe in Chiefs, BLEAV, with my partner Jeff Fedotin, who writes for Forbes Magazine. Listen every week. We had a great draft episode last week with Eric Edholm, and we had a great one this week.
As always, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again very soon, Joe.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
That's Joe Valerio, former Chiefs offensive lineman, and we'll be right back after this on Sports Radio 810 WHB. St. John here for my friends at Kansas City Credit Union, where I'm a member, my son Richie's a member, and you can be a member too if you work, worship, or reside in Jackson, Cass, or Clay County, Missouri. You are eligible for membership. For more information, visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports. And right now, if you are looking to buy a car, then you need to check out the loan rates at Kansas City Credit Union. Some of the best auto loan rates in Kansas City, now starting at 4.25%. They are ready to help you because Kansas City Credit Union is looking to save you money, not get rich off your interest payments. And they're more willing to work with credit union members, even if your credit score isn't ideal. And when you get taken care of at Kansas City Credit Union, you can feel confident at the dealership knowing what you can afford and what you should be paying. You can also, if you're driving around in a car that you already love, but you don't love your interest rate, how about this? You can refinance your existing auto loan with Kansas City Credit Union's low auto loan rate starting at just 4.25%. It's a local service, flexible loan terms, and you want to live local, you want to bank local at Kansas City Credit Union. So for more information, visit kansascitycreditunion.com/810sports. And when you talk to anyone from Kansas City Credit Union, tell them SSJ sent you. Welcome back to New Day with SSJ on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you so much for joining us. We've already heard from George Brett, Mayor Quentin Lucas. We just talked to former Chiefs offensive lineman Joe Valerio, previewing the draft. Coming up, Buster Olney, Adam Kaplan, Gary Dieter, Anthony Sherman, Jesse Newell, Bob Kendrick. And I do want to remind you that there is a special event that you can attend tonight, and they will be announcing draft picks. You won't miss anything there. So if you love live music, you want to help raise money for a great cause, check out Rock for Kids TLC tonight at Guitars and Cadillacs. It's raising money for Kids TLC. You get more information at kidstlc.org. A great cause. Proceeds from this event will help build a multi-purpose turf field at Kids TLC, creating a healing, active space that supports the physical and emotional well-being of over 1,700 children annually. So what a great cause. And I'm very proud because my son Richie St. John will be performing an acoustic set of I think 5 or 6 songs he's put together. And so for more information, you can go to kidstlc.org to purchase tickets. And that's tonight from 6 until 9:30. And again, it's raising money for a wonderful cause. And not only will my son Richie be performing, but Rusty LaFoon and also the Crossroads Sound. So if you want some singing and some dancing tonight while you're enjoying the draft, and hey, you know what? Richie's my son. He'll have his eye on the draft. He'll be announcing picks on the microphone, whatever you need. And so you can do both. And so head over there. I went to the event last year. It's awesome. And it raises money for such a worthy cause with Kids TLC. And on top of that, I love live music. So you have a blast. And you can go to kidstlc.org to buy your tickets. So how's that sound to you? It sounds good to me. Are you enthused that I told you that our man Jeremy Fowler in combination with Matt Miller had their mock draft where Matt Miller makes the picks and then Jeremy Fowler gives intel? They say that the Chiefs are targeting Reuben Bain.
Oh, yeah. Thrilled. I do have a feeling that the Saints might be on his beat, too. So
if that's,
I hope he's
but
available.
if that's the case,
right.
Jeremy Fowler said that the Chiefs might be interested in making a move. If they think Bain's their guy and they think the Saints might take him, are you in favor of then moving up to 6 in front of the Saints?
I wouldn't hate it. I probably...
If they've decided that's their guy, go do it. Go get him.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't hate it.
They got to get to the quarterback,
I don't
buddy.
love moving up this high in the draft, but hey, some people think there's going to be a lot of moves up front. I think, I don't know.
I think you do know.
I mean, if Downs and Tyson are there, I probably would just let the Saints have Bain and take one of those two gentlemen.
All right.
And hold on to all my picks. They're going to need them all. But they'll probably, I mean, Beach will probably use them.
If you don't think he's moving up at least once in this deal, then
yeah, he will.
Let me introduce you to Brett Veach.
Right, at least once, probably twice. I just hope it's not this early. I'd much rather see the 29 jump up.
What if they moved up and got Arvell Reese?
They'd have to go to 3 probably.
Right, but what if they did that? Would you be mad or would you be thrilled?
I probably would not be thrilled because you're probably giving up.
What the hell will thrill you? I want you to be thrilled tonight. What's going to thrill you?
Bain at 9 would thrill me. Jackson or Tyson at
not Tyson Jackson. No, that shouldn't.
Freudian.
Why would you say that on draft day? How terrible! You son of a gun.
Freudian slip, I guess.
Thank you.
Trauma reemerging. But Downs are
nice guy though.
Yeah, sure.
I enjoyed interviewing him.
Downs is starting to grow on me. I wasn't thrilled at safety at that pick, but look, Jordan Tyson, Caleb Downs, or Bain, I would be thrilled with all those. I think I would.
All right. We want Jake to be thrilled. We'll be right back after this with Buster Olney on Sports Radio 810 WHP.